All right. Hi, everyone. Leo Babauta coming to you from San Francisco, as I've already said. And I want to thank you guys for joining me and giving me your attention on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Today, we're going to talk about procrastination, specifically some common procrastination problems and some solutions. A couple things that I'd like to say before we start getting into specific problems and solutions. And one is that procrastination is a problem that all of us face. I don't think there's anybody on the planet who doesn't procrastinate from time to time. Some of us more than others. Definitely, I procrastinate. And one of the ironies is that when I do something on procrastination, like a course like this, I tend to procrastinate in the middle of it, in the creating of the unprocrastination materials. So I have to admit that I procrastinate as much as anybody else, but I found some things that help me to overcome those obstacles that I face. And I've been experimenting with it in my own life, helping other people with it, learning from others who've also beaten procrastination in different ways. And so we have a set of problems and fixes that we've kind of been developing. And we're going to go into those. But to back up a little bit and get some big picture, one of the ways to look at procrastination, the reasons why we procrastinate, is that we are avoiding the uncomfortable and going towards what's comfortable. And it's a real simple way of looking at the problem. And it also helps us to find the solution. So let's say a common thing is we have a report to write, or a blog post to write, or a book chapter to write, or something that we need to work on, a big project. It could be design, it could be whatever it is that you do on your computer, let's say. So we have this big project that we want to work on, but we put it off, and we feel productive because we're still doing productive tasks. Let's say we're going through our email, or doing a bunch of small things. I tend to check my bank account to make sure I've paid all my bills, that kind of thing. And those are just little small busy work kinds of tasks. Email is a very common one because it feels productive. It feels like you're getting work done. But email is more comfortable because we feel we can do it with ease. We feel comfortable in that. We've done it so many times. A lot of times it's real simply a matter of opening up an email, hitting reply, and typing up a few sentences. Or sometimes just browsing through your email to see what's there. And you feel real productive doing that, but it's also much more comfortable than this harder task that we've set for ourselves that we know is more important, but we're avoiding it because of the discomfort of it. So we have the discomfort of this hard task, and we have the comfort of the familiar. And we tend to go towards the comfortable and avoid the uncomfortable. Sometimes we avoid it not because it's hard, but because it's unfamiliar, or because we're not sure how we're going to do it on it, or there's too many unanswered questions. We don't have enough data to make decisions, enough information that we haven't gathered yet. We're waiting on something, and so it's hard to make a decision with something. All of that makes a task uncomfortable, the unknowns. And it could just be something that we're not really good at. It could be something we haven't done too many times before. Maybe we've done it a million times, but every time we've done it, let's say writing a book chapter, we know that it's hard. So we have uncomfortable tasks, and we have the more comfortable stuff. And we can go and read online, we can check news, we can watch videos. All of those things are uncomfortable. We might procrastinate on uncomfortable things like exercise, or finding healthy things to eat. And we are more comfortable with the unhealthy things. And so that's another form of procrastination. Clutter is another form of procrastination. Clutter, a lot of times, it's this big pile of stuff that we have to tackle, but it's too uncomfortable. That seems too hard. And so we go and do other things that are easier, and we leave the clutter to pile up more and more and more. Or let's say we've decluttered stuff, and the real problem is that we're not putting things back when we're done. We change clothes for the night into pajamas, let's say, and we leave our stuff there on the floor, or on the bed, or on a chair, instead of hanging up in the closet, or folding it and putting it into a drawer. Hanging something in the closet might just take 10 seconds, folding it up and putting it in a drawer another 5 seconds. And yet it's just too much time, so we procrastinate because it's easier to go do something else and leave that on the floor. So we again avoid the uncomfortableness of having to pause what we want to do and stop and do this one task, or wash a dish and put it away. That takes time, and so it's uncomfortable because we want to go and do something else. It's not what we want to be doing right now. So the uncomfortable and the comfortable. And when we look at it that way, the solutions start to suggest themselves. You don't really need me to figure it out for you. But let's look at some of those common solutions to some of those common situations. So common procrastination obstacles. One that you guys might be very familiar with is perfectionism. And I'm a victim of this too at times. I tend to try and get things perfect. And getting things perfect is a form of procrastination. And sometimes when you want things to be perfect, and you know it's going to take you a lot of work, you actually avoid doing it because you know you can't get it to perfect for a day or two. And so you kind of put that off. Or maybe you're doing it and you try and really, really work on it for a long time to get it to perfect. And yet really you could just do it good enough and put it out. So getting it to perfect and working on all the details becomes a form of procrastination. And so how do we... there's two uncomfortable things here. One is this idea of having to put a lot of work into it to get it to be perfect. And so we avoid doing it. So that's the uncomfortable situation in that case. And going to do something else is easier than having to get this perfect thing, which is going to take a lot of work. How do we deal with that issue? And the issue there is the idea, this ideal in our heads, this expectation that we should get it to perfect. And really, if we just worked on it for a little while, at least we'd have something done. That's much better than not doing it at all. And so get the idea out of your heads that you have to do this big, huge, perfect project, and instead just start a rough draft, what they call, and some of you guys who don't like swear words aren't going to like this, but a shitty first draft. And that's basically the idea that you're going to do it even if it's crap and put it out there. And even if you just do 10 minutes of it, that's better than doing nothing and never getting to that perfect ideal. So just get started. And that's a solution to that kind of thing. Getting started makes it less uncomfortable and easier because you know you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get the shitty first draft out. What about for if you actually do start it, but you're trying to work on it so much to get it so perfect? Again, you have to let go of this idea of perfect and just get it to good enough. And so this is an idea of really being more introspective and realizing that you're trying to get it to perfect and saying, you know what, I have to let go of it. Let that idea of perfect go and this idea of what I want it to be and just get it done to good enough and then get it out. One example of this is my blog posts. I never think my blog posts are going to be perfect, but I used to spend a lot more time really drafting it and revising it and getting it to be what I thought was perfect. And so what I do now is the opposite. I have a thing called frictionless blogging, which I might have talked about before. But it's basically type it up as quickly as possible. Don't have to put any images in it or quotes or links or any kind of spell checking or grammar checking or revising or any of that. Just get through the article and press post, press publish, and it's out there in the world. And then all of a sudden, I know that people are looking at it, it's out there, it's good enough, but I can make it better, so I can kind of revise it. But the first draft of that post is out there in the world and people are looking at it. And so I have some motivation, some built-in motivation to go and make sure there's no spelling errors and revise it if anything sounds dumb, which sometimes it does. And then I add some links into it and maybe format a little bit better. I don't add images anymore, but I might add a quote or two sometimes if I think that helps. And so the idea is to get it out there, even if it's not perfect. And then if I want to go back, if I have time, I can go and add more. All right. Liz talks about bird by bird. I think that's Anne Lamott, is that right? I haven't actually read the book, but so many people have recommended it, and that's, I think, the same kind of idea. All right. I'm reading some of the comments here to make sure I'm coming through okay. So that's perfectionism. That's a common procrastination obstacle. We have another one is a common one is fear and avoidance of the task. And so we fear the task maybe because it's hard, unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable, we're afraid of failing at it, maybe we're even afraid of succeeding at it. So when a task is big or hard or uncomfortable or unfamiliar, the best way to tackle that is to break it into a small task. And that again is very obvious, but a lot of times we don't do that. We think of this huge thing. Let's take taxes. This is a question that someone brought up. I don't like doing my taxes. Another example there's this thing called, what is it? I forgot anyway. It's basically like get your crap done or something like that. It's basically to make sure that you have all your stuff together. Get your shit together, I think is what it's called. And it's basically get your will done, your living will, your financial affairs in order, your relationships in order. Put all your details like your passwords to a document and all of this stuff. It's this huge list of things you need to do so that if you ever die or get seriously disabled, that stuff is taken care of, and it's much better to take care of it now than to take care of it later. So in that case, you have this huge laundry list of things that you want to take care of. Wills, which is a whole project in itself, and a bunch of other stuff. Taxes is the same kind of thing. For a lot of people, taxes is this huge project that you have to do. But if instead you broke it down to one thing, as an example with that get your shit together, I just started typing up some of my account passwords. Now, I don't personally need that right now, but my wife might need that if I did die. And so it's nice to have that on a Google Doc that she can refer to. And it took 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes of putting down some accounts and passwords. Type down your bank account names, add the passwords. Later on, I'll go and add some more passwords and maybe put my Dropbox in there, and my Gmail, and my Twitter account, and my blog, password. I started a last post. If you guys are bloggers, you might think of that. If you died, would there be a post you'd want to put out there on the world? So I started the first few paragraphs of that, but this could be a post that goes this long. And I'm not going to try and tackle that. I just want to tackle the beginning part of it. And then you can go back and do another chunk and another chunk. And so by just giving yourself in your mind the idea that you just need to go and do a couple minutes of work on this, just get it started, get the ball rolling. And you can always come back to it later. Then this huge task that you're fearing, that you're avoiding, becomes much easier and much more comfortable. So breaking something into small chunks makes it more comfortable. Online distractions. Here's another one. You know you're supposed to be working on something, but there's all kinds of things that are distracting you. Notifications and email that you need to check, and tweets coming in, and Facebook posts coming in, and maybe some news things that you need to check, and blog posts that are coming in that you want to read. So how do you stop yourself from procrastinating and doing all of these things? And so those are more comfortable than the hard task that you've set for yourself. So to make it less comfortable to do those things, those easy things, there are many different ways to make those less comfortable. And so let's look at a few of those. One is an internet blocker. Self-control, freedom. What are some other common ones? I can't remember them all right now, but just do a Google search for internet blocker or internet browser blocker, something like that. Freedom and self-control are two ones that I've actually used. There are browser plugins, and you can block the entire internet if you want to just work on writing. Or you can block certain sites like email and Facebook and Twitter. And whatever the common distractions are for you, you can block those for certain hours. And what that does is, you can always get around those, but it makes it more uncomfortable to do those easy things, because then you have to kind of tell yourself, well, I'm so distracted, I'm so addicted to these things that I have to get around them. And you don't want to admit to yourself that you completely failed, and so you'll allow the blocker to stay in place, and you go and do the less comfortable tasks, which are now more comfortable than having to get around this blocker. Another thing that I've done is taken my router and given it to my wife and said, I unplug the router and give her the actual router and say, don't give this router back to me until I'm done writing this chapter. And so it's less comfortable for me to actually have to ask for that router back and say I've failed than to actually write the chapter and then get the router back when I'm done. So that makes the online distractions less comfortable. Going to a place like a library or some cafe that doesn't have any internet is another way to make the internet distractions less comfortable, because then you have to actually get up and walk and go somewhere else to get to check your Twitter or email. So these are just little barriers that you put in your way to make yourself less comfortable going and checking those distractions. Another one that you could do is post on Twitter, Facebook, or your blog and say, I'm not going to check X, Y, and Z for the next 2 hours. Otherwise, I owe each of you guys, or I have to pay $50 to something that I don't like. And the idea there is that you have some online accountability. And you can do that in your online Sea Change accountability groups that we formed, or you can do it on whatever forum or social media works for you. But basically, make it less comfortable to go, because then you know that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing and you've told everybody you're not going to do it, and you don't want to do that. It's uncomfortable to fail at that kind of thing. Stay focused on Chrome. That's right, Greg. Let's see. So those are online distractions. There's many other ways, but the basic idea is to give yourself some barrier to doing those distractions so that they are less comfortable. So we've looked at ways to make uncomfortable tasks more comfortable by letting go of the idea of doing them perfection, just getting started, just doing the shitty first draft, just doing the first few minutes, making the tasks smaller and easier also makes it more comfortable, and then making the things that are comfortable less comfortable so you don't go and do those. Wanting to tackle easy tasks first. So let's say you have a list of 10 things in your list, but you know the top thing on your list, the really most important thing, is less comfortable. And so you want to go and tackle all those easy tasks first. Get them out of the way, and then you can get to that hard task. And that's very tempting, because the hard ones seem hard and the easy ones make you feel productive. You're like knocking all these tasks off your list. And then once those are clear, you can get to the hard one, right? Well, that doesn't always happen, because if you push the hard one back, you might never have time for it today, and then you're going to push it till tomorrow and say, okay, well, I did a lot of work today, I'll get to that one tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you still got a bunch of small tasks to take care of, and so you start knocking those off and you push the hard one back, and so on and so on. So the solution is to make the hard tasks the low-hanging fruit instead of the easy tasks the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit are the ones that you can easily pick off. So you want to consciously block yourself from the easy tasks. So there's only one task you can possibly do. Then you'd make the hard task easier by picking off just a small part of it, and make it more fun by creating a game or a challenge out of the task. So making it fun is a way to make it more comfortable, making it smaller is a way to make it more comfortable, and blocking yourself from the other ones. Let's say email is a common one. Use an internet blocker for email if that's where you usually go for the low-hanging fruit. And there are lots of other ways to block yourself from the easy tasks. Again, tell people you're not going to do it. My friend Manish Sethi hired someone from Craigslist, a girl, to sit there by him, and if he ever goes and procrastinates, she's watching him online, she'll slap him. And that's what he hired her for. What did he pay her? $20 an hour or something like that, to slap him if he ever procrastinated. So there's lots of creative ways that you can block yourself from doing the easy tasks. Another common procrastination obstacle is feeling tired or lazy. And that's a difficult one, because feeling tired or lazy, procrastinating on the small, doing the distractions online and stuff like that, is much more comfortable when you're tired. When you're tired, you don't want to face the tough stuff. And so what I do, and there's many ways to deal with tiredness or laziness, is I take a break, maybe even take a nap, maybe take a walk, A lot of times, if you're tired, you really just need some rest. Maybe you're overworking yourself, maybe you're not getting enough sleep, so you want to get some rest. Often I'll just take a break, walk around, get a sip of water, massage my neck and shoulders. These are common ones that I've done. I learned this when I was quitting smoking. I didn't have smoking anymore to relieve stress, so I would just kind of massage myself. Maybe ask my wife for a massage. She helps me sometimes. If you're stressed and worried and anxious, it's another common thing that people do and they use that as a way to go and do the easy stuff. So what you want to do, this is big picture stuff, but schedule some time for fun, for being active, for relaxing, have some meditation time, doing yoga, a simple tea ritual every day where you kind of just focus on savoring the tea for a few minutes each day. All these things help you to relieve your stress and anxiety. If you're anxious about something in particular, talking to somebody about it really helps a lot. And these are really obvious things, but if you start making a list of all of these solutions, you can and you know you're procrastinating, you can stop yourself and say, well, let's look at this list of common solutions. Well, if I'm anxious, maybe I should go and talk to somebody about it, or do some meditation, or some yoga, or some activities. Another thing, this is again big picture thing, but if you're tired, stressed, anxious, worried, a lot of times you need to simplify your day. So take a look at all the things you're doing. Maybe your day is an endless amount of tasks and meetings and all these things to do. And so what you need to do is kind of put some space in between these tasks. Kind of curate your day so that you have important stuff throughout the day with space in between them. So don't fill your plate so full. That's true of healthy eating as well. Don't pile your plate full. Leave some room in between and just have what you really need. Let's say you're not motivated. That's another common obstacle for procrastination. And that, again, these take a step back, but you might want to think about give some thought to what excites you. Seek some inspiration from other people. I go online and read other people doing great things, and that inspires me. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I should go do something kind of like that. And so you take these other great ideas and you kind of riff on them, or do your own version of them. Having different places that you can check for inspiration, developing an inspiration list is a good idea. Even some motivational videos sometimes gets you pumped up. Sometimes people have music that get them pumped up. Another thing to do for motivation is find a way to make what you do more fun. So I like to make games and challenges. Sometimes I'll have a competition with a friend. I read a guy on Lifehacker recently who talked about gamifying his life, and so he assigns points to different things, which might be dull things or things he doesn't want to do. But at the end of the day, he racks up a bunch of points and he gets to tally them, and it feels good. And then maybe he's going to challenge a bunch of friends to do the same task with the same point system and see who can get the most points each day. And so all of that are ways to just make things more fun. And that helps to motivate you if things are fun. Let's say you're overwhelmed by too many tasks. This is another common reason why people procrastinate. So you have 1,000 tasks on your list, but you also know that you can't do 1,000 tasks. You can't even do 10 right now. You might do 10 today, who knows, but you can't do 10 right now. So all you gotta do in this list of 1,000 tasks, or maybe 20 tasks, or whatever you have, is just pick one and narrow your field down to just that one. And so the idea is not to keep this whole list of things you need to get through in your mind, but to release that list and just get down to one and say, all I have to worry about, my whole world, is this one task. I know in this old video of Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was a steroid pumping bodybuilder, and he talked about this focus that he had when he was lifting weights. And he said, when I'm doing a bicep curl, my whole universe is my bicep. And I think it's pretty funny, but the idea of having your entire universe in that one bicep, I think is so much fun to think about. Now, I'm not saying you need to focus on bicep curls, not at all, but if you can put your entire universe into this one task, and that's all that matters, and everything else just kind of fades away, and you just put yourself into that, and the overwhelm that you feel of having this long list of things to do, of all these things to do today, it goes away because all you have to do is this. And that's all you can do is this one thing. You're done, you put it to the side and move to the next thing. You might have a long list that you have to choose from, but you just pick one thing. It doesn't really matter what. Important things are better, but as long as you're moving on something, it's better than nothing. So pick something relatively important. Throw the list away for now. Focus on that, and that becomes your bicep, your entire universe. And so that's how you deal with overwhelm. A task is too complex. That also makes it uncomfortable. That's another common problem. So, of course, the obvious solution to that, now that we know that discomfort of that complex task is the reason you're procrastinating, so what you want to do is make it simpler. Pick a little part of it. Just pick one subsection of it. Just do the first couple minutes of it. So that's pretty obvious, but a lot of times we just don't think of it in those terms. So think of why you're procrastinating. Is it too complex? Is it too scary? Is it are there too many of them? Do you not feel motivated? Are you stressed? Are you worried? Are you lazy? Are you tired? Are you trying to tackle the easy stuff first? Do you have too many online distractions? Are you trying to get something perfect? Are you worried about getting it perfect? Not knowing where to start. Here's another common problem. And so you have this thing to do, this big project, and you don't know where to start. You're not familiar with, you've never done this kind of project before, so where do you even start? Well, if you realize that's the problem, then the solution to that, and that makes it uncomfortable, the solution is, it doesn't matter where you start. Pick one place. Maybe you start in the wrong place. Who the hell cares? At least you've started, and then if you learn that that's the wrong place, you can go and do something else. But it's much better than avoiding the task altogether because you're worried about not starting in the right place. So it's much better to pick a place and start. So just randomly pick a place or pick something that intuitively feels like the right place to start. It can be in the middle or end instead of the beginning, as long as you start. So just focus on the start. Pick something randomly, pick something intuitively. It doesn't matter. And then focus on the start. And there's a few other obstacles here. A lot of them have to do with a misconception of who you are, what you can do, what your future self is going to do. Here's another one, is thinking that you'll be more motivated later. Like, I don't feel like doing it now. I'm going to check this stuff. I'll be more, you don't really say this out loud, but in your mind, in the back of your head, you're thinking, I'll be more motivated this afternoon when it's time to do it. And right now, I'll just kind of put it off for a little while. Well, it gets to the afternoon and you're not more motivated. So morning self thinks that afternoon self is going to be better, or tomorrow self is going to be better. Future self is always going to be much better at being motivated and getting things done than this person right now. So that's not true, of course. You're not going to be more motivated later. So the time to do it is right now. Overestimating your ability to do the task later as your time runs out. That's another common misconception. And we don't really think about it like that, but a lot of times we think, okay, I don't need to do it right now. It's not due for 2 days. I'll work on it the morning of that day and I'll be fine. And then when you get to that morning, there's not enough time. And so you either do a crappy job or you miss your deadline or you turn it in incomplete. And it's embarrassing and you look bad and you feel bad. And so, if that happens a few times, then it's time to start looking at that. Like, what am I doing wrong here? If you do that more than once, then you start to realize you're overestimating your ability to do something as the deadline runs out. So kind of pay attention to those kinds of things. So all of these things are really obvious things, actually, but paying attention to what's going on and maybe the thinking behind it and the obvious solutions once you've done that, I think that's really what matters. A lot of times you think you work better under pressure. This is a common misconception, and that's obviously not true. People think they do, but they don't. You might do okay under pressure, but the truth is that we do better when we have more time and we can think things out and we can go back and revise them if we need to. And the real thing is not that I work under pressure, better under pressure, but that you are not finding the motivation you need to tackle these uncomfortable tasks now. Anyway, so these are some common procrastination problems. Another thing that we should talk about is what happens when resistance has basically kicked your butt for many years and you don't know how to get out of that funk. How do you get out of that? And I realize I've gone over my promised time. We're about half an hour into it. But I'll open up for questions in a minute. But the real key there, procrastination seems to be your habit, your lifestyle now, the way that you do things. And how do you get out of that rut? And the answer to that is one step at a time. You're not going to all of a sudden become the perfect unprocrastinator in one day. It's not just going to change overnight. What it is a set of little habits, a set of little steps that you can take. And one is kind of just paying attention to what's going on in your mind. What are you fearing? Why is this task uncomfortable? What is this misconception that you have about how motivated you're going to be later, or all these other things? What are some of the obvious fixes, like blocking the internet, or blocking certain sites, or setting a challenge for yourself, or making something fun, or doing something in a small little chunk, or just getting started. So paying attention and thinking about these things really is one way to start. It's just a small step. Also, not thinking that you need to be perfect the whole day and allowing yourself to procrastinate some of the day, but saying, for the next 30 minutes, the next 15 minutes, the next 10 minutes, I'm going to have this be my unprocrastination zone. And all I got to do is focus on starting and really getting myself into the moment, making this task my bicep, and pouring myself into it, savoring that moment. Pick an easy task is also, don't necessarily have the hardest tasks if you're trying to get out of this rut, be your path out of the rut. Have easy tasks and get good at not procrastinating on those easy tasks. Committing to other people also helps you to get out of a rut. So if you aren't good at holding yourself accountable, have other people hold you accountable. And just focus on getting started in the smallest possible way. And then with that, just keep repeating that in small little steps, and pretty soon you'll get really good at these habits. And so the idea is not a revolution in one day, but an evolution of learning these habits over time and watching yourself as you learn, getting more comfortable with going into the uncomfortable. And that's really the thing that I'd like to leave you with before we open up for questions is the idea of doing something uncomfortable is something that we tend to naturally shy away from. But the truth is you can become comfortable in these uncomfortable tasks. You can go into uncomfortable situations and just be comfortable with the idea that you're going to be okay. Even if you mess up, you'll be fine. Even if you don't do it right, you start in the wrong place, you don't get it perfect, you don't look like the world's greatest whatever, you'll be fine. And so going into these uncomfortable situations, you can be comfortable with the idea that no matter what you do and how it comes out, you'll be fine. And you'll get better at being comfortable in those situations, and you'll be better at those situations just because you have experienced them in the past and you know that you've come out okay on them. And so what you want to do is have that mindset is, I'm going to go into this uncomfortable situation, whether it's speaking in public or writing something that I'm not really familiar with or uncomfortable with, and just go in there and get comfortable being uncomfortable. And what we learn is that discomfort is not really that hard. It's not really that bad. It's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable. And we can work through that. And we can actually let the urge to get away from this discomfort go. And that's meditation is a large part of the practice of that. Meditation is sitting there and doing nothing and trying to be mindful and keep yourself with your breath. But after a little while, that becomes uncomfortable. Maybe I want to get up and go and do something else, check my email. But the truth is that that discomfort that arises after a little while, it's okay. You can get used to that. And then the discomfort arises again, and you can just kind of sit there with that discomfort, and that's okay to be uncomfortable, and then it'll go away. And so you can, through practices like that, learn to be okay with a little bit of discomfort, and then you'll be really good at beating procrastination, because what procrastination really is running away from that discomfort. And when you can be okay with being a little bit uncomfortable, you don't have to run. You don't have to avoid it. And it's not so scary anymore. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. So just type your question into the chat box here with the word question in all caps, then the actual question. And kablam, it looks like that. You actually saw me type it before I said it. All right. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble the whole time. And everything with a big smile. Absolutely, Isabel. Question from Fiona is, how do you deal with something that you see as a total waste of your lifetime? I find doing taxes a waste. Adds no value to me or country. Well, that might be true. What I find is, in those cases, I have this idea in my mind. I'm going to close this laptop here real quick, sorry. I have this idea in my mind that I can, that I don't need to do it, or that I shouldn't do it. Shouldn't is the idea here. I shouldn't do these taxes because I shouldn't need to. But the idea of shouldn't is this ideal. I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't have to do it. And so I don't want to do it. But the truth is that should is a land of fantasy. And so the truth is you do have to do them. And so why hold on to this ideal of shouldn't or should, and instead accept what is reality, which is we do have to do the taxes. Otherwise, what happens is we could get audited and we could get fined or go to jail or whatever. And that's much worse than doing the taxes. So I'd much rather do the taxes now than put it off and have to deal with fines and all kinds of other stuff. The other thing too is if you let these taxes sit because you don't want to do them, you don't think you should have to, you think it's a waste of your time, you put it over there, what happens? Well, it takes up some mental cycles every now and then. Every time you think about it, you feel guilty, you think, oh, I shouldn't be putting that off, or I shouldn't have to do it, or I wish I didn't have to do it, or whatever. There's negative thoughts that are occupying your mind. And it's much easier just to get it done, and you're done. It's out of your thought process, and you can go on and feel much better. So paying attention to that process of saying, oh, I shouldn't, I don't want to, I'm going to put it off, I shouldn't have to, I don't want it, this is a waste. And then also watching yourself as you put it off and feel bad about that. Feel guilty, feel this little dread that comes up in your chest. Watching that, you realize you were just wasting your time. And so you can kind of just do it, get it over with, and move on. And I found even then that should or shouldn't do it is kind of a hypothetical question. What you do is, put it in front of you and say, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. And here's some taxes, and I can fill out some forms if it's paper, of course. If it's on your computer, you can say, let's just be here with this, close everything else, and let's just focus on these taxes. And it's not really that hard. I just fill out some information. Maybe I need to go gather some more information. Maybe, whatever. Get a bunch of information, put it into this thing, and I am done. And it's not that hard. And you can actually savor this little space that you've created for yourself to fill out this form, which is not that hard to do. And you do it, and it's not a waste of time because you've enjoyed your time. So enjoying your time, no matter what you do, is the key to not really wasting your time. I hope that helps. All right. I've missed some questions here. Wow, a lot of questions. Do you use time boxing? I know the concept. I haven't used it much, but it sounds like a good concept, and you can, of course, Google that term, time boxing, if you want to look it up. But it's definitely a tool that you can use and try out and see if that works for you. And the truth is, there is no one set of tools that work for everybody. Figure out what works for you and use it. Dora's question is, how can I better deal with a project that demands my attention many hours a day? For example, 5 to 6 hours. I can start and be with a task for, let's say 3 hours, but after that it's really hard. And I think she might have continued her question. I make pauses and try to work in time bursts, but still it gets very difficult. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think in my memory when I've done that. So working on a website redesign, which I've done for several of my sites. I've actually worked for several days on some of them, almost unbroken time. And the truth is I really enjoy working on them. And so if it's difficult, that's okay. But if it's a challenge that you can really pour yourself into and enjoy, then for me that's really makes all the difference. Because if you hate what you're doing and you think, oh, I resent this, or I wish I didn't have to do it, then the mindset is going to carry over to the time, and it's going to be really much more difficult to stick with it for that long. Another thing that I've done, like you said, break it up into little bits, is I'll intersperse it with things that I maybe really enjoy more. So drinking tea is an example of that. And I will do it, enjoy the tea, then try and focus on the enjoyable aspects of the task. I also find satisfaction in checking off boxes. So I have this list of things to do. I start to check off the boxes, and that feels good. I might share those boxes with other people so they can see all the things that I've done. Just a close friend or something to kind of brag about all the work that I've done in these last 5 to 6 hours. That feels satisfying, and that helps me to stick with something for a little longer. But I think the real key there is just the mindset. Do you go into it with the idea that you have to get through this, plow through 5 or 6 hours of this really difficult stuff? Or do you realize that no matter what you're doing, you can enjoy the task because you are alive and you have this gift of being able to do this work, and this work is going to benefit you and other people in your life and maybe the entire world. And when I think of it that way and go into it with that kind of intention, really any task can be enjoyable. All right, I might have missed some questions here. Greg Lopez's question. You said breaking it down is a good way around fearful tasks. What about chunking? If chunking those tasks is also a form of procrastination, how do you plan enough without wasting time planning? Awesome question. And so planning can be a form of procrastination. Managing a to-do list is a form of procrastination. Everything but actually doing the task is a form of procrastination. So what you need to do is kind of watch yourself. Watch yourself planning and saying, okay, I'm wasting time with this. And a little bit of planning is okay, but what I'm really doing is avoiding the task. The planning is much more comfortable. So let's go to the task and get started on the first chunk. It doesn't matter what all the chunks are. All you got to do is the first chunk. Even just 2 minutes of it, 5 minutes of it, 10 minutes of it, whatever chunk that you're comfortable doing. If you're not comfortable with 10 minutes, do 5. If not 5, then do 2. So break it down to a chunk that feels comfortable for you and just do that. That's all you can do. You can't do all the chunks at once. So just do this chunk, and then let's take a break, take a deep breath, massage ourselves, meditate for a minute, and then let's go and do the second chunk. And that's not so hard. And you just go and do one chunk at a time. And so in that case, you really don't need a lot of planning. That's what I do. It doesn't work with every project, but it definitely works for what I do. Sam's question is, after 20 plus years of being in school, I've been trained to work to immediate urgent deadlines. Now out of school, it's harder to work towards something that doesn't have the immediate deadlines. Let me see if there are any. All right. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically how I work. I have no immediate deadlines. I set my own deadlines if I want to do them. Otherwise, I just enjoy working on the tasks. And so I've got a whole bunch of tasks to do. None of them have any specific deadlines. So I think, what gets me excited? What can I work on right now? And then I work on it for The reason, not that it has a deadline and I have to get it done by a certain time, but because I really enjoy doing it and it's exciting and I can't wait to get it done. But if that's not working, another thing I'll do is just announce to somebody a deadline. And it's an arbitrary deadline, but say, I am going to have this done, whatever the project is, whatever the task is, by lunchtime. And I just tell them I'm going to do it, and then I say, okay, it's done. I've emailed you by lunchtime, and I got it done. Yay me! And that feels really good. And so you kind of set your own deadlines and have some external like accountability buddy, whether that's in your office or not, whether that's just a friend, your wife, husband, best friend, colleague, whatever. I sometimes use fellow bloggers to give me some accountability. And having an audience also gives me some accountability. So if I don't write at all this week, I know that, there's no specific deadline, but I should write. Otherwise, people are going to be wondering what's going on there, Leo. So we're social animals, and if you don't have somebody to be accountable to, whether it's one person or many, then you tend to kind of like, it doesn't really matter. So that's usually what I do, is have either an audience or a specific accountability buddy. All right. Great questions, guys. From Rebecca Young. Question is, scrolling down here. What to do when something is massively overdue, years, and you're overwhelmed by guilt and shame? What a great question. I'm sure we've all faced that from time to time. What I often do is let's say I have a stack of things that, this is in the past, but I had a stack of things that have been putting off for so long, and the guilt of it and the shame of not putting it out on it, and people have been expecting it, but I just haven't gotten to it. So I've been putting it off and not even thinking about it. And so when you don't even want to think about it because it's so bad, right? And so what do you do there? Well, the only thing that actually works is actually facing the problem. And you don't want to. So how do you face it when you don't want to? And what I've found is looking at the discomfort. Don't look at the task, but look at the discomfort that's causing in me, the pain that's causing, and realizing this is not healthy for me. I don't want to have this guilt, this shame, this fear in me, and it does not feel good. It's not making me feel good about myself. And if you do this not only with this one thing, but this other stack of bills and this stack of taxes and this other project that you've been putting off and ignoring people on, and anyway, you've got all these things piling up all over the place, you realize that each one of these is weighing on you and causing you suffering. And so watching that and saying, this is not good for me, and realizing that you need to actually face them to let go of that suffering, then what you want to do, because this suffering can go on, like you said, for years, and you've been carrying it around with you for years, and that sucks. You don't want that. So pay attention to that and realize this is not working. So what's a better way? Well, let's face it. So I take a look at it, and let's say I have this stack like this, or it's a project that in my mind is like this. Well, it doesn't matter if I can get through that stack or this huge project. All that matters is that I faced it and that I've started. And when you start on a stack of bills or a stack of papers or a big project that you've been avoiding, all you've done is gotten the first bit of it done. It feels so good. You feel like you've finally faced a fear, and it wasn't that bad. And the truth is, just getting started on something is not that hard, and it's not that scary, and it's not that difficult. It's not bad at all. And so you can look at this pain and realize you don't want to do it. Look at this stack or this project or whatever it is, and just graze the surface of it. It feels so good to do that. And look at the contrast. Feeling so good just doing the smallest little thing, and feeling so bad by avoiding it. And that's really what you want to do, is look at that and say, which one is better for me? All right. Steve in North Carolina. So I took your advice and didn't buy anything in December, and you went to Maui. I wanted to go to Maui too, but didn't press buy. Steve, you got me there. I have to admit that I don't always follow my own advice. But I did wait until January before I bought the ticket. So I actually stuck to my little self challenge of not buying anything in for the rest of that year, 2012, until the beginning of January. And then I said, and I didn't buy my kids any presents. We actually made them some stuff. So I actually waited, and then I said, and now we're going to look at buying some experience for the kids. And we looked at different options and talked to each other and decided we wanted somewhere sunny. And so I had been saving a bit for travel with the kids, and so it wasn't too bad for us. But you definitely need to do what works for you guys. So if traveling to Maui is going to take a big chunk out of your budget that you can't afford, then don't do it. In this case, we could afford it, and so we got lucky. All right, from Matt Glover. Question is, some of us are late starters to the program. I had issues with membership emails, realized I'm 3 weeks behind the program. Should I cram the first 3 weeks as soon as possible? Or, let's see if he continues. I might have missed the rest of it. Anyway, I missed the rest of the question. Anyway, so basically, the question is from Matt. You didn't get the emails in the beginning, so you're 3 weeks behind. Do you want to start on the unprocrastination module? And the truth is, it really doesn't matter. You can start right now from the beginning, and the first thing is MITs, and then the next one is the start, and then the pause, and you've missed that with everybody else, but you can do it on your own starting today. And that would be just the same as if you had started January 1st. And so that really, let go of the first 3 weeks. It doesn't matter that you haven't done it so far. It's a fresh start. It's just like tackling that pile of bills or that huge project that you've been putting off. Just give yourself a fresh start and just get started. If you don't want to do it in the middle of the month, you can always start it in February 1st. You won't get the same reminder emails, and maybe not everyone else is going to be doing the same module, but you can do any module at any time. You can sign up for a Sea Change program today and get started on the first module, the procrastination module, the day you sign up. So it really doesn't matter when you start. All that matters is that you start sometime. So if you couldn't do it for whatever reason, and you're actually, it's about 2 weeks into it now, you couldn't do it for whatever reason, those first 2 weeks you're too busy, just get started now. It doesn't matter. Let go of what you couldn't do and just get going. From Elizabeth, actually let me go down a little bit. From Katerina. Hi Katerina. Actually, that's not a question there. From Elizabeth, sorry. Question, how can you bring family, friends, colleagues along the unprocrastination journey with you? So, for example, if you all enable each other's procrastination, that's a tough one. Changing other people's minds and habits is really difficult because, first of all, they might resist you imposing something on them. But even if they decide to go with you, what happens if they quit? And then do you quit with them? Or do you just go on your own and let them quit? Or do you feel mad at them or resentful that they didn't continue? So it's a real difficult challenge to face, that kind of thing. And what I do is I kind of think of myself on a lone journey that I can do on my own. But of course it's great to have some company part of the way. So I might ask my wife, I'm thinking about doing this. Here's the reasons. I've read some cool articles, talked to her about it. What do you think? You think it's a good idea for me? Are you interested in joining me? If she thinks it's a good idea, we can do it together for a little while. But if she heads off, I don't let that affect my journey. I just keep going. I might have other friends where we decide to do a challenge together. So let's say you talk to your friends and family and say, how about if we all do this unprocrastination challenge? We start on January 20th, and we just do 10 days challenge, or 11 days challenge. And we say, for these 11 days, we're going to do this habit of setting MITs and just starting at 9 a.m. in the morning, or whatever time we decide to start. All we got to do is set an MIT and just start. And that's the smallest thing, but we got to do it just once a day and see if we can do it every day for the rest of the month. And that's a great way to get them involved. But kind of talk to them about the reasoning, give them some articles. Feel free to email them my articles that I've sent you guys. You're going to have to copy and paste it into an email, but I don't mind if you share my articles with people. Obviously, I wouldn't like it if you shared the entire paid program with them, but sharing some content's okay. And see if that helps inspire them. But also be willing to let them go their way and give them the space to do their thing. I think that's really important. But challenges are always a lot of fun for me. Greg Lopez asks, you mentioned for overwhelming tasks to plan it out. What if you're overwhelmed by sitting down to plan the overwhelming task? In other words, the prospect of breaking down an overwhelming task is overwhelming. So yeah, absolutely. That absolutely happens, and don't worry about that. You know, never have any guilt about procrastination because we all do it. And what you're really facing here is a set of obstacles that you can overcome by changing the comfort level of different things. And so that's really all you have to do is don't worry about the guilt. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or you're weak or you're undisciplined or you're whatever. The guilt is totally unnecessary. It's just this thing that we play in our heads, and it's, you know, distraction and extraneous. Just let it go and just tell yourself, okay, what do I do here? Okay, well, I can't break down this, and it's too much to break down this overwhelming task into chunks. And so all I gotta do is say, okay, I can't do all of the tasks. I'm just gonna do 2 minutes of it. And it doesn't matter which 2 minutes I do, just get started. I don't have to plan the whole breaking down of the tasks. Just work on it for 2 minutes. And I can do that. I can just focus on just getting started. Doing 2 minutes. If I feel like going beyond the 2 minutes while I'm on a roll, then fine. But I don't have to. Once I've done that, I can take a break and breathe and look at how good I've done and getting started and say, okay, now I just need to get started again. And just keep doing that. And it doesn't matter how you've broken it down. 2 minutes at a time, 3 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes. It's all... it's all, you know, unimportant. All that really matters is just getting started on it and doing it in a comfortable way. So do whatever feels comfortable to you. From Janitza Medina, hello. Question is, how do you lessen the anxiety that rises from a fear of failure? That's an awesome question. Thank you for asking that. So, the fear of failure. Let's take a look at that for a second. And we're almost about an hour into this webinar, so I'm gonna wrap it up after the next couple of questions. But I will try and save these questions and answer them later. So the fear of failure is this worry that we're not going to be good enough. We're going to go and give a speech, and people are going to think we're stupid. So we fear failing at that. We're going to write something and publish it online, and it's going to look dumb. We're going to make a presentation at a meeting, and it's going to look dumb. We're going to do a project, a website design, and it's going to look crappy, and we're going to fail. So we fear that failure. And the truth is that even if we fail, we will be okay. Fail at a speech or writing something online or a presentation. The truth is we've all failed at these kinds of things, and we've come out the other side fine. Actually, we've actually come out better because we failed, but we learned something from it. We learned what we did right, what we did wrong, maybe gotten more comfortable doing it because we've done it at least once now. And so the idea of failure as being some kind of thing that means we're not good enough, what it is, it means we did not do a good job with that. Maybe we did it wrong. Maybe we could improve it. And that's fine. That's not emotional. That's not personal. It's just, I use this method. It didn't work very well. Let's change the method. Let's learn a better method. Let's look at other people who've done it and say, what method did they use? Let's look at why this method failed and change it so that it doesn't fail next time, or it's less likely to. And so it's just tweaking the method. And so if you fail, look at what method you're using and tweak it. And if you're afraid of failure, say, you know what, that failure that might happen, the worst case scenario, It's not because I'm not good enough, it's because the method's not good enough. So let's try the method, see if it works. If it doesn't, tweak it. And so it all just becomes this lab experiment of what method works and what doesn't. Not am I good enough or am I not? Because the truth is you are actually good enough whether you fail or not. That's what you have to really realize. And it takes some time to work on that. From Kanga, I have a question. I often procrastinate on getting up out of bed in the morning. I will wake in bed but not get up. Any advice? Yes. I face this myself. There are some things that I've done to deal with that. One is I will lay in bed, but let's say I set an alarm, and the alarm's right here, and I turn it off, and I just lay there. I'm not getting up. I'm half awake, and I'm just laying there. Eventually, I'll get up. So what I do in that case is I'll put the alarm on the other side of the room so that when the alarm goes off, I have to get up, go turn that alarm off. Even if I wake up naturally, I know that alarm is going to go off. I also have my wife in my bed, so that helps because I don't want her to wake up. And I know that if I let the alarm go off for too long, she's going to wake up. So I go and run over there and turn the alarm off. By then I'm standing up. Now I have a choice. I can go back into bed, which is going that way, or I can go and pee. So I tell myself, after I set off the alarm, all I got to do is go and pee. By the time I've gone to pee, I wash my hands and I wash my face and I feel refreshed. And then I think, okay, I'm awake now. So that helps, is kind of having that set of things that gets you in motion. Another thing that I've done is I actually think the night before as I start to go to sleep, what am I going to work on first thing in the morning? I might have a great blog post idea that I want to write. Or maybe it's, working on a book or a new project or sharing something with people or, emailing somebody that I think it's a really important email. Having that set up in the night means that in the morning when I get up, I'm excited about doing something. And so the first habit is setting the excitement. The second thing is having that excited thing get you up out of bed in the morning. And then the third thing that I do that works a lot is I just focus on the habit of jumping out of bed. So the alarm goes off or I wake up or whatever. I tell myself, all I gotta do is jump out of bed. And jumping out of bed, it's like you get up and you're like, I am out of bed. Maybe not so loud that you wake up your wife, but or whoever's in the room with you. But you get up and you're like, yes, I'm alive. And you're out of bed, and you also have that thing you're excited about working on. You also have to go turn off that damn alarm over there and go pee. And so that is an amazing habit to have. So work on that habit if you're going to work on any habit of waking up. Turning off the alarm, blah, 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 fine. But also jump out of bed. Another thing, if you wake up too early for the sun, like while it's still dark, then that's different. But if you wake up when the sun's up, have your windows open and have the sun come in and wake you up naturally. And that also helps you wake up in the morning. But also they have these lights, they're like sunlights. They have like natural sunlight that shine on you when the alarm goes off. Or maybe they slowly wake you up as the light turns on. It's like having a sunset, but it's still dark outside, but you have this light that's your personal sunset. Now, your wife might not like that, or your husband, but it really does help you wake up naturally. All right. Let's see. Next question. What's your favorite tea? Oh my gosh. I love green tea and I love oolongs. Those are my two favorites. Within green tea, I love all kinds of senchas. But I just got this tea. Hold on a sec, guys. My absolute favorite place in the world for tea is Samovar Tea Lounge. And if you're ever in San Francisco, go there. There's 3 locations. Samovar Tea Lounge. But I also had tea this morning before this webinar with this guy called Eric Gower, who's such a great guy. You guys are going to love him. Go to breakawaymatcha.com. Breakaway, as in breakaway, and then matcha, matcha.com. And matcha is like I think, the healthiest kind of tea in the world for you. And here's his he gave me this as a gift. So I'm not promoting it because he gave me a gift. I'm promoting it because I might make some money off it, or he might make some money. But because it's such an amazing tea. Uh, Comes in this beautiful little canister. You should actually refrigerate it, he told me, to keep it away from light and air. So you got this little thing here, and I would open it up for you, but I don't want to spill all over the place. But anyway, it's gorgeous matcha. And he also showed me how to brew it. And he's got this little canister that he brews it in. It's ceramic, and you sift it through a sifter. What do you call those things? Anyway, a wire kind of sifter to kind of get the powder less clumpy. And then you put in about, here's a sifter, actually, he gave it to me. You put in about 2 ounces, or about an inch worth of hot water that you've boiled and let sit for about 3 minutes. This is the sifter here. And you sift it through that. And they gave me this Aero Latte thing, which is not the traditional. Oh, you put in about a heaping scoop of this bamboo whisk, which is like that. I mean, really heaping. Which is about half a teaspoon if you want to do less traditional. Then he gave me this Aero Latte thing, battery powered. And the traditional thing is I actually have a bamboo whisk, but it takes, people study for years and years to get the whisking right. So a lot of people don't do it right. And so he has this Aero Latte thing, which you just turn on, and all you gotta do is just do it for 5 seconds or so, and it whips up a froth. So beautiful. And it's a real thick matcha at that point. Then you put some hot water and maybe another couple ounces into a little cup, and you pour the matcha, almost like putting an espresso into an Americano, some hot water. So you put the thick matcha into this Americano, just kind of dump it real quickly. Into the hot water. And so now you have a little cup of matcha that is just delicious. If you have really high-grade matcha, this is not cheap, but it's really good, and it will actually come out to about $2.50 per cup if you use about a scoop per cup. Anyway, there are many other questions here, I think, and I'm missing a lot of stuff in the chat. But with this, I'm going to have to end the webinar because we've gone well over an hour here. I hope this recording is working and we can put this online if you guys want to see it tomorrow. And I will also try and copy a lot of these questions and answer them offline and send them to you guys. So I want to thank you guys for sitting here with me for more than an hour, for listening to me ramble about matcha, which I really love. For listening to me talk about some possibly obvious solutions to procrastination, and some bigger picture stuff about being uncomfortable and comfortable, and learning to be comfortable with some discomfort. I think that's the ultimate skill when it comes to unprocrastination, is learning to be okay with some discomfort and knowing you can get through that discomfort. So watch yourself as you notice the discomfort of some of these things that you're avoiding, and allow yourself to go through the discomfort of it and realize that that discomfort is not such a bad thing. It's okay to have a little bit of discomfort in you and get to become a samurai ninja, a master at that discomfort and getting through that discomfort. The urge to go do something more comfortable, it'll come up because of this discomfort that we have. And let it go away and stick with the discomfort for a little while, and it'll be fine. And you'll be fine, and you'll realize that you can come through this discomfort fine every time. And once you've done that, you've got really the only tool that you need to overcome procrastination in any form that it takes. So I hope that you guys do practice this, with whether you've started the beginning of the year or not. Just get going and pay attention to this. You can do it in February, you can do it in March, you can do it in July if you want to. In fact, you can do this all throughout the year and for the rest of your life, and it's a practice that's worth the effort. So thank you guys for the great attention that you've given me, for the great questions that you've thrown out there, and for your time. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys later.